Hey guys, it's David here from Rapidqsnz. So today I just want to talk about probably one of the most simple projects that a builder or a homeowner will ever undertake. It's just building a deck. So let's just keep it simple. Let's just work off a 4x4 deck and we'll break down rough materials that are included. Don't worry, I'll attach a spreadsheet afterwards with like standard costs of what all the material components would cost for a 4x4 deck. And then we can go through and break out some labor hours as well. So very quickly, we'll just draw out a little square here. Excuse my angles and squares here. So 4x4. So obviously the key components to a deck are the foundations, all right? So in every corner of your deck, you're gonna have 4 posts, which is pretty much gonna be the outline of your deck. Starting with that, first of all, your builder's gonna set out some profiles on the outside. This is to help get your deck square. You can run some string lines, get everything parallel, get everything straight, and make sure everything's square off the building so it looks symmetrical. So he's going to set up some profiles. He's going to put some pegs in here, pegs, a little bit of boxing across, and he's going to run some string lines, okay? So let's just say we'll start with some posts in the corners. Standard NZ3604 with bearers sitting on top of posts. You should have all your decking, all your posts around 1.5 to 1.8 meter spacings, okay? So to keep it simple, let's just chuck an extra 2 posts in here. Boom, boom, post, post, post. So I'll attach this in the spreadsheet, but pretty much for posts, we've got 4, 8, 12, we've got 16 posts, okay? For the next item, we always run, obviously, the labor for that. So presuming your builder's got a post hole borer, there's probably going to go through and they're going to post hole bore all the holes for the posts with 2 people, and then there'll be a bit of a clean out in between. So by the time they set up their profiles for a 4x4 deck, they should have the profiles set up in 1 to 2 hours at the most. Mark out their holes with spray paint, get the post hole borer up and running, and then they should be post hole boring holes. So you could easily say within 4 hours labor for 2 guys, they could have profiles set up, the post holes board not cleaned out. You've got to allow a little bit more time there, and then holes are sort of ready to go. So for each post hole, depending how deep, if it's a small deck, obviously the specs change. If it's a high deck right off the ground, it might be a 900 deep hole with a 600 diameter, depending what the engineer's spec. Let's just keep it real simple. Flat deck on the ground, not high at all. Probably just going to go 400 to 600 deep. You're probably going to need 2 to 3 bags of 20 MPa concrete. So 3 bags per post, 16 times 3, 30, 6, 12, 18, 48 bags of concrete. So you got posts, you got concrete. On top of that, you're going to have a bearers running across horizontal across these posts for your joist to sit on. So we would be using, there's lots of ways to put your bearers down, but I think the standard and the best structural element to the deck for the bearers would be a 90 by 90 SGH, so it's a structural grade timber, treated as well, so H3.2. So we'd have 1 run here, 1 run here, 1 run here, 1 run there. So 4, 8, 12, 16. 16 meters of bearers. Next up, we got joists. So every joist runs pretty much at 400 centers. So that would give us 4 meters across, divided by 400, gives us 10 run of joists at 4 meters. So that's going to give us 40 meters. Depending on what spec it is or how high, sometimes you have to have solid blocking in it every 600 centers. Let's just say, because this one's flat on the ground, we'll have 2 runs of solid blocking all the way through. So we'll go 2 runs there. So we'll add on an extra 8 meters, 48 meters. Now for the final one. Decking's probably the biggest one where there can be so many cost variables. You can start off with a treated pine, 90mm by 19. You can go to a premium pine, 90 by 32mm, so that's obviously the thickness of the decking board. Then you can go up to hardwoods as well. So you can get Quilla, you can get Grappa, you can get Vitex, you can get Fijian, mahogany, hardwood, all sorts of stuff. Let's just keep it simple and go for a 90mm decking on top of the deck here, okay? So 90mm, whatever 4 meters is, divided by 9, it might be, we'll go 38 runs of decking at 4 meters. So we'll go 40 times 4, 160 meters of decking. Next after that, should be pretty standard. I personally recommend everyone should screw their decking down. nails tend to pop, and then in 5 to 6 years you can run your feet over it and catch nails in your feet. I think it's horrible. So 65mm stainless steel screws. We'd probably estimate a box for this one, a box of 500, a box of 65mm stainless screws sort of sit around $180. So we'd have one box of 500. So those are kind of all the materials that we'd use to take out. Obviously there's some more additional fixing in there. So for every bearer to pile foundation, you might have 2 Z-nails, which are kinked nails like that. So they attach to the bearer and the post that way. And then, yeah, depending on other specs, there's like CPC 40s, multi-grips and all sorts. But standard, you would have 90mm pass load gun nails, galv, for outside. So one box of pass loads. So those are pretty much all your material components combined to that to build a deck 4x4, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna run over the labor hours to build a deck for this, okay? So this is probably where the biggest cost variables come in, especially for the client or the builder, okay? So let's just assume I'm pricing this for another builder to build his deck for a homeowner, okay? So the builder is easily going to allow probably 2 hours for 2 guys to set out the profiles. Let's just go market standard, $65 an hour. So profiles, he's gonna give it 2 hours. Okay, dig post holes, let's just say it takes 10 minutes per hole. 10 minute, we'll give an hour to post hole bore all the holes for 2 guys. So post hole, bore, we'll give 2 hours. So that's 1 hour each for each person to go around, zip, do all the holes. We'll call it clean dig out. Okay, let's give one person 2 hours just to go through, chop out all the holes, make them square, empty them out to say 400 to 600mm deep. 2 hours. Now, bearers are the other one. Bearers is the second step of the foundations. After we've installed the posts, we've got to install posts. If the posts are flat on the ground, it's very likely that we can sit the posts in, concrete them as we go, and then use a small 400 level to level them up as we go to make sure they're sitting plumb and not on the piss. So let's give 10 minutes per post, cut the post to a certain height, sit them in the hole, and then concrete them. So we'll give 1.5, we'll be generous and give 2 hours to concrete those in. After that, we've got bearers. So at that point, we've probably got 8. So we've probably allowed, by midday for a 4x4, so say they start at 7:30 till 12, they should have the deck sort of post ready to go in the ground, concreted. So after lunch, we'd be starting on bearers. So presuming all the materials are on site, site access is good and everything's there, I would say it'd take no more than half an hour to cut and install bearers. So that's a 90 by 90. So you've got your post sitting like that. You install one bearer through there, gun nails through the side, and they're sitting there ready to go. So let's just say it takes half an hour per one by the time they measure it out, cut it on the drop saw, sit it hard on the post, and gun nail it down. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. And this is for 2 guys, by the way. So after that's done, that's probably going to be a full day. They're probably going to be sitting at around 5 p.m. for the day. Next day, they come back and lay out all the joists. So we're going to be, once again, presuming site access is good, all the materials are sitting there right next to the deck, set up the drop saw. We're going to make 10 cuts of joists at 4 meters. So if they come in 5.4 meter lengths, it's going to be pretty easy. Run the tape out, cut them at 400 centers. Cut them at 4 meter lengths and install them down. So you could very easily do all the cutting in less than half an hour, and then simply we're going to mark out centers on the deck at 400 centers along the bearers. So on the bearers, we're going to measure out 400, make a mark, etc., lay out all the joists. You could easily allow from 7:30 till 12, cut all the joists, mark them out, and nail them down to the bearers. So we'll give one morning, so we'll give 10 hours there. Solid blocking in between, so we'll do, because it's not a high spec deck or it's not at heights, we can just allow for 2 runs. So we're just going to cut 10 lots of nogs at 375. So we'll call that blocking. We'll give them 2 hours for that one, not hard at all. Now this is probably the most exciting bit where we get to lay all the decking timber. So if we're going to stick with a 90mm decking on this one, we'll simply probably have one person cutting, one person installing. So we're going to have roughly 36 runs of decking down here at 4 meters. You could very easily allow a day here to cut and install all the decking. Now would just be tacked down. So 2 guys for a full day, 9 hours, 18 hours to lay the decking. So decking. Once we've got that all tacked down, we can do perimeter boards as well. So if the deck's sitting off the ground a little bit, there's the bearers, there's the joist, decking sits on top, we'll put a perimeter piece down here. So including screwing off all the decking for all the joist runs. So obviously every joist run we're going to have decking running across. We need to have 2 screws per deck. You could easily allow half a day for one person to go in to do that, while the other person screws off all the perimeter boards around the side. So we'll call it final touches. Another 18 hours. Okay, so all in all, we've pretty much got half a day here, there. We've got full day here, and then we've got another full day, 2 days here, sorry. So that's pretty much the layout to go from set out, posts in, bearers down, joist down, decking down, screwed. So that's all just for this example now, and now we'll run through a spreadsheet cost of how much those labor hours are going to cost. Hey guys, so this is the breakdown for a deck 4x4 here. So down the left side, I've just broken down all the materials as explained on the whiteboard before. So we've got loose profiles, posts, concrete bags, bearers, etc., all the units there for the amount that we need. Putting a rough cost there. This is just sort of the average standard retail cost of what you would expect to pay. And then I've times that by the amount that we've got there. And those are all the totals there, coming to 4152. Over to the right side, we're broken out the labour units. We've got units and then labour hours. So we've got 2 hours for site set out, 2 hours for profiles, dig post holes and clean out. We've allowed 4 hours. That would be with a post hole borer. Install post concrete, 2 hours. That would just be concrete in place and level there. Install bearers, install fixings, install joist fixings. There we go. We've got a day and a half to do all the structure. We've got a day for 2 guys or 2 days for 1 guy to do the decking timber install. Half a day to screw off, and then we've got cleanups and defects. So that would just be like tidying up and getting out of the job. 58 hours in total for a 4x4. Come down here, total materials 4152, total labour 4350, giving us a grand total of 8502. Given our P&G costs here, take away that, put a 10% on top of that just to cover skip bins, travel and additional. GST on top of that, 15%, coming to 10.7. Now for a hardwood deck coming in at a square metre rate of 672. Now obviously every builder will charge differently. This is just a sort of a ballpark estimate of what the market standard should cost. But if you were going to go a pine deck, you'd probably sort of be looking anywhere around 400 to 500 a square metre. And then that would give you essentially that's the grand total for a hardwood deck. So there we go. There's the breakdown.